Good morning, everyone.
Good
Happy to
morning.
be here. Hello. It is take 8 of Coaches on Call, and we are starting. Holly Fogel here with Lori Hamilton, Coaches on Call, and we have a special
Okay.
guest joining us, Linda Stratton from North Point Mortgage. Hey, Linda.
Hi there.
Um, so everyone has been talking about interest rates. And we are going to dissect a little bit on interest rates, but we are really going to try to shift you into different conversations and what I call a wonderful professionals market that we have moved into. Thank goodness. I think a lot of us have we're just played out with the market shifting, this and that. The market shifts every like 6-7 months anyway, and it's been shifting and it's will always shift. 22 years in this business, the one thing I know is that it doesn't stay the same very long. So we knew this day was going to come. And I'm thrilled because I think everyone has an opportunity to benefit from a normal real estate market. So the last 2 years, I think all of us can agree, was not normal and it wasn't great. And the hangover from it is including a lot of buyer remorse, unfortunately. So today, what we want to do is just really help you with your conversations with buyers and sellers and renters and investors, all the people that you have an opportunity to help in this wonderful career, and even some commercial opportunities. Some of y'all out there are in the commercial world as well. So, welcome. But let's just go ahead and open it up a little bit and have Linda kind of tell us a little bit of what she's seeing, since rates seem to be the hot topic, and affordability and what payments are and things like that. So Linda, why don't you just kind of start us off with what's the landscape kind of looking like in your neck of the woods when it comes to people's buying power?
Okay. It's a great subject right now, especially since we've doubled rates in the last few months. It kind of happened very fast for all of us. And the thing about it is we have to adjust. I want everybody to kind of keep in mind that if you look at the last 30 years average, that last 30 years average was 7.5%. So we're a little bit below that still from what I'm seeing, but we got to keep in mind that's the average. We've just been very spoiled. And like you said, now we have to get ready for the new shift in the market and get on our toes and kind of figure out, okay, how do we get through this? The agents back in the early 80s went through 18%, 13.5%, whatever the rates were. So this is nothing. We just need to readjust our thinking, not so much towards rate. And, I know that in the last couple of years, everybody was pushing, go call a lender, go call 5 lenders, see what the best rate is. And everything was all about rate. And I think we need to focus now less on rates and realize we're back into normality. And what did you do 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years ago? Don't do what you did the last 2 years. Let's start doing something what we did before, and let's go back to basics. Let's talk more about, hey, we do know that the rates change depending on what type of loan you're doing, how much you're putting down, your credit score. So there's so much in it. So maybe stay out of it. Have a great lender partner that you can call, that they can educate your buyer to make so the buyer makes the best decision for them and their family. It's back to, let's stay out of that. Let's not push that, because home ownership is still the best thing that you can do as far as investing.
I love that.
Just like we all kind of, I'm sorry.
I said, I love that. Home ownership is still where it's at.
Wouldn't you rather make payments where you're building your equity than make payments and makes a landlord rich? I would. I'd much rather be able to paint my walls any color I want to and not have to ask permission to do it. There's something so freeing about home ownership, and we need to get our mindset back to that and not so much about, oh my gosh, what's my rate?
I love that. So don't focus so much on the rate. And to be honest with you, I was not actively selling in the last 2 years. I kind of feel fortunate, from what I've seen all my colleagues going through the last 2 years. So I only know an average of 7.75, 7, maybe a 6, or maybe a 5 when we were doing interest onlys. But that was very short-lived as well. So I never really focused on the rate. To me, it's like you just need to go out and increase the number of people that you're talking to, is what it sounds like, which is what Lori and I are probably used to. You know, we had to talk to a lot of people because not everybody did qualify for a home. And so we just had lots of conversations, lots of lead generation, lots of lead conversion, lots of pipeline building, which is something that I'm very passionate about teaching anyway, is having that quality pipeline. So what are you hearing, Lori? You're dealing with a lot of newer agents and a lot
Yeah,
of
so yeah, in the playground where I'm at a lot with the newer agents, it's interesting the conversations that they are having. We have actually had between me and my new agent group, we've had a lot of conversations about how their conversations are not enough. Like, and I don't mean the quality of it, I mean the numbers. Like, okay, you're going to have to increase that. And this is not just, the mindset is not just, it's easy come, it's not order taker mindset. It is, we're really educate. Like, we're big learning based here at our brokerage anyway. Like, we all know that. And Linda, you're very learning based too, which is why you're a great partner with us. But when you're educating your clients, that is the better conversation to have. And I think it also starts with, and we talked a lot about this yesterday, we have our little accountability sessions with the group, and we just talked a lot about connecting with people and being that go-to source again, and saying, you know what, this is really what's going on. A lot of people listen to mainstream media, they listen to the news, they're getting the wrong information and they're under the wrong impressions, is what I get, because these newer agents are hearing all these objections, and yes, I've heard them, but it's the conversation of, yes, that could be true, and here are some of the facts. And it's going to take, instead of talking to 25 people, probably talking to 50 these days is really what I think, because you're going to have to be on the hunt for more people that are ready and that are looking to make a change as far as, you know, home ownership. Because I still believe, as a realtor, I mean, that's what we stand for. When we have our realtor designation and we're part of member of National Association of Realtors, we are for home ownership. And we've almost sort of gotten away from that maybe in the last 2 years. Would you disagree? And I don't mean that in like we were never for it. It's just it kind of came so easy because everybody was hearing all this stuff. But now it's just like, okay, a home is a long-term investment, but I'm the biggest believer in that's kind of the centerpiece of your life. If you want to own a home, that is one of the bigger achievements that you can get. So that's kind of where
Can I go on to what you said, Lori?
Yeah.
You know, the thing that I think that we have to remember too, as realtors, as mortgage people, we may talk to 10 people in a day if we're lucky, but also too, those 10 people may not be ready right now, but it's okay to educate them to help them get to a point where they can be a homeowner. And it's not always just now. So because we have to increase how many people we're talking to, we need to let everybody know what we do for a living and show them that we are professionals in our education and what we've learned and what we know from our experiences. So as we do that, again, we need to think about, it's okay that you can't buy now, but let's educate you so that you know how to get yourself to a place where you can buy.
For sure.
Yep, and see what that pathway is going to be. You know, I tell agents all the time, we offer so much value before, during, and after the sale. And a lot of times I think realtors are always thinking about who can I help today that needs to buy or sell. And if you just have that whole servant's heart and that service mindset, there are tons of things that we can provide value for our clients, because even if they're not ready to do something now, what about referrals? What about growing your sphere because you do know how to provide value? You provide information and service providers and all kinds of quality information that people need to know, whether they're renting, buying, selling, investing. I think a lot of people forget about, you know, folks that want to make an investment, you know, looking at making real estate a wealth building plan and strategy over time. And so there's so many different conversations that we can have that may lead to something today, might not. It doesn't matter. But if you're a professional, you're not just looking for the task of showing properties and writing offers. Like there's so much more to what we do. And this is a great time for everyone that's a professional. And the professionals are the ones that are going to thrive right now. Like a lot of folks that got in over the last couple of years, and there's already a huge failure rate. So for something that I know somebody that's really good can make this business look easy, 80% of folks will not be in the business within 2 years. So that's why a lot of people get their license and a lot of people get out. There's a very, very high turnover rate because they're not really focusing on this as a career and a craft. They're looking at it as a get rich scheme. And it's just not. Like that's the furthest thing. We all know 20 something years in the business, we kind of know what the staying power looks like. And it's not the folks that get in this for a get rich quick scheme. It's just not. We know that it's not. So moving to this professionals market is fantastic. I want to shift and ask a little bit, when we talk about this, I don't want it to kind of come across like, oh, we're always trying to find ways to put a square peg into a round hole or something. But there are a lot of products out there. And you're not, as a realtor, going to know them all. It's not your job to know them all. And we do want to make sure that we keep the consulting, very individualized for people. But I also think that as you're educating folks, because it's more than just what the rate is, and a lot of people will just say 7%, I can't afford a house now. What are some, talking points that realtors should be putting out there about maybe different products or, different things that you can do with the rate, Linda?
Honestly, I think that what's important right now is, and the big topic that we keep on hearing out in the market is about buy downs. They've come back a little bit. But what you need to understand as an agent is that there are temporary buy downs and there's a buy down as far as points to buy the rate down for the life of the loan. And personally, I think that every buyer needs to make that decision for themselves as far as how long you're going to stay in the house. But a good point for the agent to bring up is, hey, did you realize that there are buy downs? There are temporary buy downs there that maybe will get you until you start getting your bonuses to feel a bit more comfortable with the payment. And then by the time the full payment is there, you're going to have your bonuses every year. You're going to have extra commission or whatever it is, and you'll be comfortable with it. Or if you like something more consistent, you're a little bit more conservative, you want it to stay more even, maybe a discount points would be better where you buy the rate down for the life of the loan. And then you talk to your customer about what are your plans? How long are you thinking that you'll stay in this house? It used to be an average people move every 7 years. I think people are doing it a little bit more often now because they think they can move and make money fast. But I think that may slow down again too, just because our market is leveled out to more of what it used to be. The thing that also is a very hot topic is renovation loans. Oh my gosh, you see a kitchen that a buyer doesn't really like and it's just antiquated. And, it still has like the almond appliances and it still has, shag carpeting throughout. I know that may not even exist anymore, but a renovation loan is a great way that you can say, hey, you know what, since you like the structure of this house, you love the way that it's floor laid out, why don't you look at doing a renovation loan with your lender and do something like that? You'd have the house you want in the area you want, but you could put your own touch on it and be able to put that touch on it right when you buy it, as opposed to waiting to save money to do it. It's all part of your monthly payment. So I think that's a great.
Yeah, that's great. Now I'm in Florida and you're in Florida as well, Linda.
Correct.
So you actually have the benefit of helping folks in 2 states. What about what's happened here in Florida with the hurricane? Do you have a little bit of information?
I just learned about this fantastic opportunity. And I hate, I feel so bad for the people that have been displaced out of their homes and things like that. But FHA has come up with a loan. It's called a 203H. And if anybody that was living in a Florida area that was a presidentially declared disaster, that was either renting or owning. So you don't even have to have owned a home that got destroyed. Your place where you rented could have. And it is inspected by a HUD inspector, which will help you can get 100% financing on your next home. And you know what's really cool about it, Holly? You can get it anywhere in the United States.
That's huge.
They could decide, I'm done with this Florida weather. I can't imagine saying that, but I'm done with this Florida weather and I want to be up north. I want to go live in New York. It's okay. You can get 100%. And they've even taken into account, oh, wow, they have a house down there and they're making payments on it. Well, if they had insurance and everything they were supposed to, we don't have to count the payments against the destroyed house and their debt to income ratios.
That's
So
huge.
it's an amazing plan.
Wow.
I love that. That's so great. And it's, timely here. I was fortunate enough. I'm an hour north of Orlando, but Orlando even had quite a bit of devastation. So, that hurricane just it did a lot of damage.
It was the way that
Other
it crossed,
states
it was really
too.
bad. Yeah.
Yeah.
But think
So-
about it. A realtor in any state, you may have a new customer that calls you that says, look, I'm tired of, this is where I'm coming from. I cannot wait for my home to be rebuilt. Georgia, Alabama, Tennessee, anywhere. You just don't know where the people may end up. So it's good for anybody in the United States to know about that program.
Yeah, that's a great point. It's not just Florida. Like you said, these people are going to be displaced, and you're absolutely right. They may choose to move anywhere across the country. We don't know where people have family and things like that. So what a great product and just great information. So I hope everybody listening will share that information, so more people know about it, because I was shocked. I had no idea. So it was so great that Linda shared that information for the folks that, may really need that and need something in the future. Right? Earthquakes, fires.
But it just shows you there's so many different products, Holly, that and it's hard to even list them all. And that's, again, why a partnership with a lender is so important. So that as you talk to your buyer and you get a little bit more information about what they're trying to accomplish, then you can talk to somebody and say, okay, before I even send you this person, this is what they're trying to accomplish. That way it allows the lender to see what's out there, because I wish I had a bigger brain to remember them all, but I don't. And sometimes you have to do research. It's part of the business, but at least they're prepared when they talk to your customer. They know a little bit about their goals, and they can give them the ideas of the best products that may help them.
Yes. And I think, what I really like about you and your company is you do think outside the box. You provide information to us that really helps guide our conversations. Like, talk about the extended rate locks that you have and how that could impact people maybe in new construction.
Yeah, you can lock a rate up to 365 days.
Huge.
But then again, you have to think about it. Now, it may cost you up front. It costs you a point up front, and you are locking for a 60-day lock as opposed to a 30-day lock. But when you're going to go that long, as much as things are changing, you don't have to worry so much. And, I don't know about y'all, but as a mortgage person, I see buyers worry all the time. And if you can take some of that stress out of the process, it sure makes the process a lot easier. Now, we all hope that the rates go down. So let's say the rate goes down quite a bit before you do close on your home, you are allowed to float it down. So it doesn't stick you to that, but it gives you a cap. So you know that you can plan in your mind, this is the highest that my rate will be on this house.
Which
so yeah,
is
it's a great deal.
That's a great deal. I did see this morning before I headed out that according to Redfin, in September, I think, or October, maybe it was September, 60,000 real estate deals fell apart.
Wow.
60,000 across the country.
Wow.
That was huge. And again, if you don't have that really good lender partner that is really specific to each individual and goes through what can happen, when can happen. I think a lot of that probably had to do with now they couldn't qualify or they didn't have their rate locked in. So it is so important. We'll finish up when we finish up, with best practices, but it is so important that you really have this partnership and that you look at the whole package of what's going on, like their job and this and their payment and their ratios. It's just going to be so critical. And like you said, you may go out and do more research to help someone that someone else, another lender that doesn't even think of that, just, operates very, these are the products I have, this is it. People may be missing out because they don't have that good partner. I did speak with someone after our sales meeting in another state, and I mentioned a few things that you had told us about, like with the buy downs, and I never had to do that before. So for me, I'm like, we never did buy downs, and the rate locks. And then we talked about recasting, which I'd like for you to talk about, which I'd never heard of. And when I mentioned this to this person that was in another state, they were like, you're talking a whole different language to me. I don't even know what you're talking about. My lender's never said any of this. Like, I don't even know what you're talking about. So I recommended that this person go and have lunch with their lender to really get a bigger picture, because I think this person was also kind of feeling a little bit deflated, and with their client's ability, and it just brought more life into the conversation. Like, I think that educating and really understanding what's out there is so important. So we talked about the locks, we talked about the buy downs, just for talking points for people, so don't just immediately shut people out. Anything else, like with credit scores or recasting, things like that, which I had never heard about recasting?
Recasting is very popular right now. A lot of people do not want to sell their current house before they buy their new house, but they've got all this equity in their house, and they're like, well, wait a minute, I want to put it down. So I'm kind of in this catch-22. And then you have bridge loans that are kind of coming back, and they're like, well, I could take a bridge loan. But if y'all all know, bridge loans are very expensive, and they have high interest rates. They're short term, and a lot of them are almost like hard money loans, because they are short term and they're not making a long amount of money on them. So they need to make them for a little bit. So what you can do is sell your house after you close, and then go take that bulk of 200,000 or whatever you make and go put it back on the new loan on the new house that you bought, and they will recast, and therefore they'll re-amortize your loan based on the new loan amount. Now, it is up to the servicer whether you can recast or not. Most of them will allow you to do it. It usually costs about $250, $300 to do it, and they will only allow you to do it one time.
Okay.
So make sure it's not, oh, I got a $10,000 bonus, I'm going to go put 10,000 down. It's going to have to be a significant amount of money to do it, but you won't lose your interest rate. Interest rate stays the same. It's just they recalculate your payment on the new amount.
So now you could have a much lower payment.
Correct.
Because
and you could utilize your equity where you thought, oh my gosh, did I mess this up by not selling this house first? But then I'd have to move twice. So it's a way to do that without having that high interest. And I've noticed on balloon loans too, some of those, or on the bridge loans, some of those have where you can't pay them off. They have prepayment penalties if you pay them off too soon. Ooh. So you really have to look at that kind of stuff. There's so many details on all the loans, and that's why it's really important to dig into them and to make sure that you're looking at the pros and cons of them, because it may sound terrific on the pros, and then there's that con and you're like, oops, that defeats everything I'm trying to do. So you got to make sure you do your research and read a little bit deeper into it, and not just hear what you want to hear.
Right. Good point. And Lori, maybe you can talk a little bit too about, I think this is an important point. Over the last 2 years, appreciation levels were not normal. Like, and I don't even know if you really say normal, but traditionally, I experienced in the 12 years of actively selling, mostly in Gwinnett County in Georgia, it was between 2 to 4% appreciation per year. That was kind of a normal. And again, the appreciation levels were, a long-term win, right? So after a long time. So why don't you talk a little bit about what the appreciation levels over the last 2 years have done to people's equity position, and what is your thought on, do you think things will come way back down in pricing, or what's your kind of thought on where people are if they didn't sell before and now they're thinking, well, I'm not going to get 50,000 over, what's that whole dynamic, do you think?
Well, I mean, yeah, and I sold in that same market too, the 2 to 4, maybe 3 to 5, depending on where your location was. And I felt like over the past 2 years, I kept having this conversation with people that we had, I think the average statistic was like 18% in 1 year. That is 5 or 6 years worth of appreciation in 1 year. And if you do that for 2 years, that's a lot of appreciation. And everybody kept saying, well, it's all going to crash. Well, I mean, here's the thing, like, yeah, values are there. We have comps to support it. What I'm seeing, and I was actually walking an agent through this morning, we're just seeing people are trying to get those higher prices, but because of the buyer demand and the cost of that money to borrow now is a little higher. And I think that's just the education part of it, not to put bad news or be negative about it. It's just, okay, the cost of borrowing that type of money right now is a little bit higher. So those basket of buyers are being reduced. There's not as many buyers. So then we're seeing days on market. So then what happens? Sellers get scared and then they lower the price of the homes. People are like, it's losing value. I hate to say that, because it's not like when we had, 2008 and yeah, all the values just kind of went down. This is just probably adjusting appropriately to where people can afford to buy. That's sort of where I'm looking. That's what I feel like I look at and talk about every day, to just help get that word out, because there's all of these words out in the industry: losing value, home prices are dropping, like all these headlines. And it's like, can we reframe that somehow? That's my take on it, just from seeing things over 20 years. And y'all, I'm just going to throw this out there. It has been 20 years. Next month will be 20 years that I got my license in Georgia. I was like, dang. I was like, I'm getting old. I can't believe this. And I was like, just weird saying it. Anyway, I've loved seeing the different markets. I feel like now seeing a lot of those different markets, living through those markets, we've all found a way to come together with our team, with support systems, with people in the industry, people that have gone before us. There's always some kind of way to pivot in and adjust and find solutions and be able to talk about all of these things to help each other. Because I feel like, just like this whole market is cyclical, this is also just a reality check, right? It's, Linda, what did you say? Let's all stop having a pity party. And
Yeah.
we all get back to basics. And it's a reality check. It's like, yeah, things were at 5, 6, 7% before. We're just, yeah, we may have to work a little harder to find the qualified people, because we just don't have that pent-up buyer demand that we had, that we're pushing those prices up. So that's kind of my hot take on it, and what I've thought about over the past, 6 months or so.
I like it. And also, Pat had taught me a long time ago, keep people in the payment, not in the price. Mm-hmm. And, when I showed homes, oftentimes I would have the approximate mortgage payment. I'd figure out the taxes and the insurance and all that and what the going rate was. So it was always an approximate, but I would put that on the top of the little sheet of the properties that they were looking at. And that way, as they're walking through the house, they're seeing 1675, not 389. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, is this home, you know what I mean? Because that's what they're thinking. When people are walking through the house, they're thinking, I wonder what the payment is. I wonder, can I afford this? Mm-hmm. They're not thinking, can I afford 389? They're immediately thinking, what's the monthly payment? You know what I mean? So keep people in the payment. And again, that goes into the education with your lender and making sure that you go and meet with your lender and have this conversation ahead of time of your expectations of their service level. I see a lot of people that they're not in that really strong partnership. They don't have that team created. And that's so important, along with the education process too, keeping yourself educated. But before we kind of wrap up here, I do want to just mention and kind of piggyback off of what you said. I think if sellers are now getting in the market, that appreciation level already hit. And it's kind of like you said, there's comps out there. So even if it's slightly off, you're still well above 2 to 5% appreciation for, what I mean? Those last 2 years still gave you a significant bump, even if things level out. What I like about a leveling out is that sellers have longer to kind of figure out their situation as well. They're not put under the gun. Buyers are not settling or feeling under pressure. NAR came out with a statistic that 67% of buyers that were surveyed and answered, 67% of buyers in the last 24 months have buyer's remorse. And that is awful. Like that just breaks my heart. I'm actually kind of seeing something like that here in the Villages. Someone that had bought, they didn't like it here. They bought, kind of got whatever. So here they are 6 months later, moving. And you hate that for anybody. So I love a more normal market. People are taking their time and really making sure that this makes sense, for their family. And when we talked in the beginning about the importance of home ownership, that's, where the consultative approach comes in. That's when the professionals really go to work. And I really hope that all of you out there are taking the time to make your services well known to your database, to your sphere of influence, that you're more than just the person when they're ready to sell or buy or rent or invest, that they may want just a no obligation consultation to see what their options are, what are their choices. Because if they just listen to the news, it's gloom and doom, and it's just not. It's a great time. Like, I am so glad that we are in a professional's normal market. This is great news for everyone. And people look at me like I have 10 heads when I'm playing pickleball or tennis, and everybody's like, what's going on with the market? And I'm like, oh, it's fantastic.
Well, but Linda, don't you think though that the dust is eventually going to it's just like gas prices. Like, we were all like so shocked, sticker shock with gas prices at $4.50, $5 a gallon. And then, don't you think the mindset may change because as far as the consumers go with the whole interest rate thing right now?
Well, I think two things are going to happen.
Okay.
I think number one, they're going to get educated and they're going to understand that we're back to reality and we're back to the norm.
Good.
And so they're not going to be so freaked out because, when things change initially, that's always when everybody kind of goes, oh my gosh, what do I do?
Yep.
And number two, I think eventually as things settle down in the economy and stuff, they will go back down a little bit. I don't think we'll ever see 2 and 3 again in our lifetimes. I kind of hope we don't. Just because, yes, it was great.
Well, look what it did. I mean, look what it did.
I mean, there was a lot of things that happened because of it. But I do think they will go back down, maybe in, the 6s, 5s, which that's fine. That's great. But I just think it's a combination of people right now are just seeing so much change. And when people see a lot of change, they get a little bit nervous.
Mm-hmm.
And I think as we educate them and we get out there and kind of let them know, hey, this is okay. We're still living a great life, and let's pick ourselves up and by our bootstraps, as my mother used to tell me, and move on and just feel the positive, then I think we'll be okay. And I think we will see rates come down a little bit. I don't know when, and they are predicting that they will, but the 2s and 3s are gone.
You mean you don't have your crystal ball, Linda? Come on now.
I know I'm lacking in business.
I'm kidding.
Okay, well, let's go ahead and wrap up as we always do with Coaches on Call. We like to just kind of leave you with a couple of best practices, a couple of positive mindsets. So I'll go ahead and let Linda start with some best practices as we do our wrap up. So Linda, what's some words of wisdom for everyone?
After this call, the best thing that I think a realtor can do right now, have a Zoom call, have a lunch, go talk to your lender, kind of get some ideas about what they see. The one thing that I found in this business that I learned the most from is sitting down with realtors and learning what y'all do. I'm more successful because I know more about what a realtor does. I think you'd be the same and get a lot out of sitting down with a mortgage person. Know a little bit more. Get off the rate thing. Learn a little bit about renovation, about recast, the different things you can talk about that are generic, that give them an idea, and then leave it in your mortgage person's hand. But sit down and take a few minutes of educating ourselves right now when we may be a little bit slower. And the more we learn, the better off we are and the better we are for our clients.
Love it. Perfect.
Drop mic. Love it.
Lori, can you top that?
No, I can't. I just can't. I love it. But here's just my takeaway. Maybe some best practices is to, just like Linda said, because I'm going to just kind of dovetail off of that. Yes, talk with your lender. You need to have a strong lender partner because, as she said, she learned the best when she knew what went on in our world. You kind of learn the best when you go on in what's going on in their world too. But with a team, you can always find a solution. How did we get through all the different types of real estate markets? People didn't give up. Well, maybe some people did, but a lot of people did not give up. And how did we get through all those markets? We always found a solution. I mean, two main parts of the transaction. Well, one of the biggest parts of the transaction is financing part. Get with your lender to get solutions. There's always a solution. 9 times out of 10, there's always a solution. I think that's just with life in general too. But I definitely think that if you've got somebody who's strong and can think out of the box and has a consultative approach, you're always going to have, a solution that you can find. And then also, housing is always going to be a good investment. Always kind of think of it as it's a long-term investment, but talking to people about home ownership and telling them as a long-term investment, it's always going to be a good investment. I think you just can't go wrong with that.
Love it.
Awesome.
And so I'll just kind of wrap up with, oops, sorry, getting some feedback there. I'm going to wrap up with people will always be buying and selling. So next year they're predicting maybe 4.5 million sales instead of, well, last year we had over 6 million, which was not unusual, but a little bit out of the norm. It's typically in the 5s. So what are your goals? Keep yourself educated, keep yourself positive. I always tell people, go into the MLS in the morning and look. There's always new homes hitting the market. There's always homes that are closing. There's always things pending. It's never zero.
Right.
So we live in a world of abundance. Go get your fair share, earn more, learn more, have more, and just be that professional that your folks look to, and you're the option. You need to be the loyal option for as many people as possible. And it starts 99% of homes don't close because of financing. 99% of the time, it's because of financing, unless they're paying cash. So when you realize the importance of having that partner, and I know that we've drilled it in, but it was the best thing I ever did was have that team around me that I was able to help every stage. It was the lender, it was the inspector, it was the closing attorney, it was the home insurance, it was the whole package, plus all the other ancillary services that we provide to our client base. There's about 28 different vendors that all your clients need within the first 3 months of owning a home. And hopefully you have that list that you're able to help them lead, guide, and protect your folks to a quality experience. And, we had to drop it. Where's Denver?
Yeah.
So, well, thank you everybody for tuning in as we talked about the great rate reset. Go out there, get your fair share, be a professional, and do a great job, and make it a great career, the great career that it is. So thank you, everybody.